Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Going to go back at it tonight with the brief as far as the research I've done so far. Continuing on with some IRS individual master file. We're going to do some talking about that and the TIN and the ITIN and SSN and EIN. So before we get started, I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And there's PayPal links down in the details section for anybody who wants to share some love. And the StreamYard link is there for anybody who wants to come join on the panel. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started. Where was it? Well, we'll just do our search again. Well, that's not the only place. What did I do here? My apologies, folks. We shall find it. We shall find it. Come on. What is that wording? Let's just do the whole phrase. Okay, now we got it. National Account Profile, NAP. And if you think you haven't been put to NAP after a spell of illness, you might have been duped. Because that's exactly what the NAP contains information received from several sources of information as follows. Data Master 1, Social Security numbers, employer identification numbers, employee master plan or plan master file, cross-reference file. The NAP provides taxpayer entity. Taxpayer entity. That Social Security number is issued to a taxpayer entity. If you're going to sign up for Social Security, the agreement is you're wanting to pay taxes. Entity information for the individual master file, birth master file, SSN, ITIN, and EIN. So what they don't tell you here is that that Social Security number is in fact a tax identification number. And EPMF. The NAP will include spouse and dependent cross-reference information if applicable. This is in reference to the Selective Service and what it means. The male student, 14 years of age, can volunteer to continue on with his education, or he can quit high school. But mom and dad generally want him to continue on. So they tell him he has to keep going to school. And they're his mom and dad. They're the ones making the choice for this young man. Yet at this time, when he's 14 years of age and still in school, taking on a higher education and medical insurances through mom and dad, because that's why they've got him in school. They want that medical insurance covered and everything till he's an adult. They convince you that the education system is for educational purposes when it actually has medical insurance purposes as well. That young man is being raised up in a militant school modeled after the Prussian military training. If any of the name controls listed below matches the taxpayer name controls for the specific tax period and the TIN, the taxpayer's account will attempt to post during the next quarterly merge. SSA name controllers, ITIN name controllers, new SSA name controllers. See, that's Social Security Administration name. That's not your name, it belongs to them. The only reason it belongs to them is because the control is authorized through an enumeration. So the name itself isn't actually what belongs to them. It's the name and number that identify the record in which they use that name. That name is a translation of the given name and the family name. Adoption name control. I was adopted. That's what that's talking about. It's also about adopting a pupil. See, mom and dad under that Title 4D program are considered parents in one capacity or another. And it's all about parental control. It's not about the birthright at all. It's about the control. And when you give your children up to this public education system, you give up control. Clear and simple. Caution, SSA name controls displayed on CC&Os or are not listed in chronological order. What that means, we have to look up further. If any name controls listed on the SSA ATIN or ITIN name control match, the taxpayer's account will attempt to post to the valid side of the IMF, individual master file. The posting to the valid side will be completed after the correction, transaction codes post. After the correction. What is correct? The whole record is in error because you're not supposed to be taking upon that SS5 application as a taxpayer that lays a presumption that you're a resident, a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. You should never be filling out those SS5s. Only federal employees and contractors of the government are required to pay taxes. Period. Yeah, what the fuck? The valid side. That means the side that they're currently operating on at the beginning of each quarter is not valid yet. It's a process. It's a 3-month process. And at the end of the 3 months, certain things are supposed to happen as far as verifications. So the next thing I want to talk about Let's see, what was it? Let me see my notes here. It says here, correct all individual master file, IMF entity account issues using the instructions contained in this handbook in order to establish, change, maintain, and or perfect individual taxpayer accounts. Perfect. Specific wording, specific plain language. It says it's supposed to be perfected. That's what they claim is to be invalid, evidently. I'm not sure. We'll have to find that one out someday. But in the meantime, if it's not perfect, then it needs corrections, if you get the gist of the language. When it comes to the ITIN is an individual taxpayer identification number. And that is, let me put something up, see if I get what I think I'm going to get. Okay, it says here, and this is just a regular Google query. Taxpayer identification number refers to the number issued by the IRS or Social Security Administration to identify taxpayers. For individual filers, TIN is usually the taxpayer's Social Security number. For individual filers, TIN is usually the taxpayer's Social Security number or individual taxpayer identification number. Okay. U.S. taxpayer identification numbers include a Social Security number, which is issued to individuals, and an employer identification number, EIN, which is issued to individuals or entities. They're talking about businesses. That's a business number, and this is a individual. So a business number is for an actual corporate entity, whereas this guy is just an agent. The ITIN, individual taxpayer identification number, taxpayers with an ITIN can complete with the registration process to access their IRS. Doesn't want to tell us here, but the ITIN is for residents and maybe assigned to an alien dependent from Canada or Mexico, if that dependent qualifies a taxpayer for a child or dependent care credit. So if your child is a foreign, if you come from Mexico or Canada and you get dependent care here in the Americas, United States, they're going to assign you an ITIN because that's a taxing event. But that ITIN is specifically supposed to be for tracking purposes for the medical services and products provided for the commercial aspect of it, the monetary value of it. It's not supposed to pull the people into it as if though they're agents and now they're contracting. See, it's certain deceptive forms when they tell you that you're a beneficiary. No, you're not. The beneficiary is the record. You are the benefactor. Let's see. Who does an ITIN apply to? What is an ITIN? An individual taxpayer identification number is a tax processing number. issued by the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS issues ITINs to individuals who are required to have a U.S. taxpayer identification number, but do not have and are not eligible to obtain a Social Security number from the Social Security Administration. So, how can you be required to have? The IRS issues ITINs to individuals who are required to have a U.S. taxpayer identification number, but who do not have and are not eligible to obtain a Social Security number. Social Security is a voluntary act. It's total voluntarily. You do not have to have a Social Security number. You do not have to have a Social Security card. You do not have to have an IRS ITIN unless you are a taxpayer qualifying as a corporate entity providing a business. And they're construing this as if though you have to have this for care, safety issues, insurance. No, you don't. What is an ITIN used for? IRS issues ITINs to help individuals comply with the U.S. tax laws and to provide a means to efficiently process and account for tax returns and payments for those not eligible for Social Security numbers. They're trying to make it sound like you're required to have this number, but now it's you're not eligible. So you can't be required to have it if you're just not even eligible, right? You see where we're going with this? If it's a requirement for everybody, then how is there a not eligible? We all grew up believing that we were required to have a Social Security number, and that's false. They are issued regardless of immigration status because both resident and non-resident aliens may have a U.S. filing or reporting requirement. No, just because they may doesn't mean that they are issued. You can't issue to somebody that doesn't accept them. If you don't give them that name, they can't issue it to the name. None your business. He'll tell you what his name is when he's a full-grown boy and wants to make that choice himself. Until then, it's our duty to protect the beneficiary of our trust. ITINs do not serve any purpose other than federal tax reporting. If the ITIN serves no other purpose than federal tax reporting, and you're supposed to have that in case you're not eligible for a Social Security number, then the Social Security number is the same thing. It's for federal tax reporting purposes only. Like kind, like requirement. It's voluntary. An ITIN does not authorize work in the U.S., provide eligibility for Social Security benefits, so neither does the Social Security number. Qualify a dependent for earned income tax credit purposes. No, it doesn't. Does the following apply to you? You do not have an SSN and are not eligible to obtain one, and you have a requirement to furnish a federal tax identification number. What's the federal requirement? You show me the business tax receipts, invoices, shipping labels, the addresses to and from, where they were dropped off. All of this information that I'm supposed to have to support the harmonized tariff systems of the United States. It doesn't exist. Well, that's a great thing, Harry Nut. Personally, I cannot get any agency to acknowledge requests, let alone act in harmony with their codes. They simply never reply. Treasury, Department of Justice, Passport Authority, et cetera, et cetera. See, and that's the thing about the private administrative process. You start making your own journal and fuck them in their journal because their journal's not got their journal isn't going to say anything. I've got 94 cases summary judgment. That's the lowest judgment. That's just their summary. It's just an opinion. So you make a declaratory judgment. Nobody rebuts it. You make it again, giving them a second option. or second opportunity. They still don't rebut it. Third time's a charm, baby. 3 strikes, you're out. Now it becomes a final judgment, and you can have it issued by an order of execution. Make sure you know how to draw it all up. The next one, you are in one of the following categories: non-resident alien who is required to file a U.S. tax return. You cannot be required to file a U.S. tax return unless you have said business records to support the taxing operations. Doesn't matter if you're a non-resident or what. That makes no difference. But when we do get into it, non-resident alien. Yeah, I'm a non-resident because I can't be a resident, but I'm certainly not the one that's alien to the land. I was born on this land. The United States is the one that's alien, and it seems like the judge is the apparator, as he is expecting the appearance of a total apparition. United States can't appear in any court. It's located in Washington, D.C., that has the physical 10 square mile boundaries, and it is merely nothing but a record. You show me anywhere where you can find and locate the United States in Washington, D.C., other than in some goddamn drawer. Dependent or spouse of a U.S. citizen. Resident alien. See, they want to call everybody an alien, even though they're a resident or a non-resident. They're saying they're aliens. That we're the aliens. It's a fucking fiction. Dependent or spouse of non-resident alien visa holder. You know what visa is? Invitation. That's a communication in private where you have permission from a foreign culture to come visit, teach your affairs, and learn from theirs. It's called itinerant. 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 Non-resident alien claiming a tax treaty benefit. Again, this matters nothing. Tax treaties apply to all. And of course, I told you, I think, I adopted the postal tax treaty. Non-resident alien student, professor, or researcher filing a U.S. tax return or claiming an exception. Not an exemption, an exception. If so, then you must apply for an ITIN. Really. I'm a researcher. I profess the truth. I'm a student of truth. I profess the truth. And I research the truth. How dare you? I'm going to take a minute real quick to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There are PayPal links in the details section down below for anybody who wants to share some love. And let's see here. Yes. Yes, it does. It keeps the contractual nexus alive. This is why I reiterate over and over again, King James Version of the Bible, Jeremiah 1:5. We're supposed to be ordained and sanctified as prophets unto the nations, not as nationals. This is the parable of David and Goliath, talking about he shut off the state's armor and everything because he wore the full armor of God. He walked forth in full faith. Yes, it does sound like a sojourner. That's exactly what it is. It's a traveling teacher. It goes along with that thing about you feed a man for a day if you give him a fish. You feed him for a lifetime if you teach him to fish. But the true principle behind it is that he can now go on and teach other people to fish. Because it's not just about helping one man. It's about that butterfly effect that if you Do all your best to make sure that you help teach people. It's going to expand overwhelmingly. And nobody wants to do that, so it doesn't. What does expand overwhelmingly is all of fear and idiocy. And it's just a shame that we're in 2023 with billions of people on the planet and very few see it. It's a shame. So anyway, let's go on to the next one. Got a case law here. As it relates to the enumeration at birth and all of that. And coming forth as a peaceable man bringing equity. So we've got this case here. This is Van Dyke's appeal. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. February 9th and March 4th, 1869. Inequity. The Supreme Court has original jurisdiction in this case. Remember Form AO430? I'll bring that up here in a minute. Act of June 13th, 1836, Section 13, pamphlet L789, whatever, gives jurisdiction for the prevention or restraint of the commission or continuance of acts contrary to law and prejudicial to the interests of the community or the rights of the individuals, and for care of trust monies and property. Hagner versus Hayberger. So we are talking about trust. We are talking about property. We are talking about equity, rights, interests, and title. Supposing the orphans court to have no jurisdiction in the subject matter, the plaintiffs would be without remedy if this court have no jurisdiction. Why is that important, folks? Very nuts on it. The flag outside and inside the courtroom in all 50 states tells facts, but nobody knows what it means. See, those courts aren't courts of equity. Those are admiralty maritime courts. You can only get your court of equity at the Supreme Court. That's what I believe. You have to take it all the way upstream to Supreme Court, and that's the Supreme Court of the Northern District or Southern District in most states. You address it at the state Supreme Court first. That's your court of equity. And again, like I said, that Form AO430. Got to remember, Administrative Office of the United States Courts, Case Information Record, Form AO430, and then type of proceeding, equity. Notice it says plaintiff, debtor, other, and government. The plaintiff's always going to be the government or on the government's half because it's for the interest of the public. Okay. The defendant's always supposed to be another corporate entity or of some sort. But notice they're the debtor And this box here shows that these three things here are of like kind. These four things here in this box are of like kind. So this is the debtor, always being the plaintiff or the government or somebody else. And the defendant, again, that's a third person abstract noun. But as creditor versus debtor, you have no jury, there's no district judge, there's no bankruptcy judge, there's no magistrate judge, but there is a chancellor. So you assign him as chancellor, and you put that name up there. Put your case number, whatever district it's in Blackhawk County Court, state of Iowa, 7th district, whatever. Yes, the Supreme Court is another corporation in the United States. And those are administrative law judges. Judicial Officer Department is a neutral, independent forum within the United States Postal Service, comprising of Judicial Officer, the Office of Administrative Law Judges, and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals. So if there's a contract before this court in a matter of equity, that would place me as the creditor because you're using my goddamn fucking name. I don't care how the fuck you enumerated it. That's my fucking names you're using. You're using the given name and the family name as a translation to the legal name. I never authorized that. You did that when I was born. I was then raised and indoctrinated in your Prussian military training schools to do the exact same thing that you wanted me to. Believe, believe, believe. Just remember this, remember this, remember this. No one ever taught me to think on my own. I had to do that on my own too. Anyway, I'm done for tonight. I decided I'm just going to break the rest of what I've got down into these little sessions like this, do little videos and open the panel up for anybody that wants to come up. But generally, nobody wants to come up, and it just ends up being me dragging on and on and on. So I think the shorter ones would be better for everybody, and I hope you enjoy it. In the meantime, remember, folks, I love you. Well, right. Where there is representation, there's no law or equity. And so the equity is on the private side. That's where you have to get them in those chambers. Let them know that you're not going to administrate the estate of a person that is in my name, that I'm standing here telling you that was a creation of me. That's in violation of patent laws and everything. I'm not going to sit here and speak on Article 1 or the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment. I'm going to talk about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, that's in alignment with the Treaty of Berne for literary and artistic works. I'm going to the patent, copyright, trademark, and all that because the post office is a trademark holder for all of that and that side of the contract. Again, it's the judicial officer, the administrative law judge, and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals. Now, the federal government means all entities of the government of the United States, including the United States Postal Service and the Postal Regulatory Commission. Now, the Postal Regulatory Commission is the post office at the International Bureau. That's the International Post Office, not the United States Post Office. And there we're talking about the Global Postal Trust Services. So it is trust. All of these actors are the contractors, and the people are the benefactors, plainly and expressed. So, yeah, that's the only way you reach equity is by bringing it yourself. He who wants equity must first bring equity. Right. Attorneys cannot participate in an Article 3. It's a man versus man. Yep. Well, that's what we're talking about. It's man versus man. You have to put them on the same estate level. Again, we were both ordained and sanctified as prophets unto the nations. And in Romans 13:1, it speaks again about there is no power but that which is ordained of God. And that if you're going to place judgments, the one that's righteous is the one that needs to be feared. See, we're all judges. We're all prophets. We're all man. That's the capacity we have to put each other to. I believe in nothing else. That's why I'm such a hard ass with everybody. I expect that if you're going to walk with me, you're going to walk with respect like me. Otherwise, I don't want you around. Period. Anyway. Yes. To the American people. To the American people, not the corporate states. Absolutely. I agree. So anyway, again, I want to thank everybody for all your support. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I'll be back again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. In the meantime, remember, I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. So may God bless you. Have a good night, and I'll see you again next time. Bye now.